First of all, there was a time where Budget Day was the moment we heard about the budget. We've had 4 days of this.
Well, do you know what? If there wasn't any lines out there, I'm sure you guys would be finding something to say or to consider might happen.
Don't try and bounce this on us.
We've set the direction.
No. You have a chancellor who loves the publicity. I've never seen such a slick PR operation as the photographs of him in his slip-on shoes.
Sliders.
Picture of him with his sliders.
Slip-on shoes.
Well, they're slip-on shoes to a certain generation. and pictures with him with his dog on his sofa. He's a master at PR, isn't he?
He's a master at lots of things. He's a master at handling our economy, as he's proved during this economic crisis that we've been involved in.
So you think it's all right that we know already?
I think we've got some vision, we've got some direction, we know where we're going. Employers know about that minimum wage change. That's not a bad thing, I don't think.
What do you hope? First of all, are you going to be wearing a mask in today's session?
Inside the chamber. That chamber, you know, is quite big. It's quite well ventilated. It's got very high ceilings. But you know those people who you see in the chamber with or without. When you're sat here, how close are you sat? How close are you sat?
We wear regular testing.
Where's the mask?
We have to.
Anyway,
no, we're tested regularly. Otherwise, we
so are
wouldn't
we.
Be here.
There's testing facilities on.
Well, how come the Tory benches were all not wearing masks the other week and all the Labour MPs were?
You could ask all those Labour MPs why they weren't wearing those masks at their party conference, sat equally close, if not closer. But then wear them when they're on the chamber to make some political point. The reality is that many of the members on our bench is actually when we go through those lobbies and we're closer together and we're in, do put a mask on. And it's about context. People have to make informed decisions in the context that they're sat there.
OK.
So far, so good. Yeah.
Oh,
he came in for a quiet chat about the budget. We're giving him.
Let's get back to the budget. Let's get back. Rishi Sunak's announced this budget will declare an age of optimism for Britain. Do you agree? And what does that mean?
I think so. I think do you know what? Nobody foresaw what we've been through since I became an MP, since he became the Chancellor.
Well, that was 2019. That wasn't that long ago, was it?
Well, exactly. But nobody predicted what was about to happen. We've now got through that. We're facing up to the challenges and what that's left us. And we're about to start building back. We're about to start looking at where the country goes from here.
Well, you're MP for Stockton. Levelling up is clearly at the heart of all. Presumably, your constituents are always talking to you about what are they going to do for us? Well, what's the answer to that?
Well, we've got a lot of answers. This is a big answer. So if you look at my part of the world already, before today and before we found out about what's going on today, actually, local railway station that people have been banging on about for ages, 15 million being spent. It's putting a lift in to make it disabled access friendly. It's putting a new car park. It's putting a new road access. It's joining it up with a local business park. Great stuff. We've had a town deal. We've heard about these town deals. 23.9 million.
Yeah.
The money is going to be spent by local people. The decisions, there's a board put together, local councillors are on there, local business people are on there, the local colleges on there. They're looking at what the priorities are for that area. It's changing the town centre, it's changing infrastructure, it's putting cycle routes in. Local priorities. We've already seen huge amounts of money. Our local high streets had a future high streets fund, 16.5, and big sums of money. We've now got to make sure it all gets spent properly. But actually, I can point to millions and millions and millions of pounds of investment that just hasn't been seen in my part of the world for years, decades and decades and decades.
So this is a very exciting time for you.
You recently did a shift in a shop, didn't you? Or were you recently in the high street doing something?
So I have the absolute pleasure of... So I used to work in Woolies.
Yes, you did.
Top-notch pick-a-mix.
Pick-a-mix.
The world's greatest pick-a-mix. But I now have the pleasure, having done lots of
Woolies that were closed down because of the demise of the high street.
Well, that's the big project of today. So I now chair the all-party parliamentary group on retail.
Yeah.
So I spend all of my days talking about high streets, talking about the challenges that face the high streets.
So business rates is what they all talk about.
Yeah.
Are we going to hear anything on that?
Well, I'm hopeful that we're going to hear it. You know what? The government's been undertaking a fundamental review of business rates. The key word is fundamental.
Does that mean delayed?
Well, no, apparently we're going to hear today the where business rates are going. The reality is it's a huge... I spend most of my days talking about business rates, talking to
If you go into any shop, it is all they talk about.
Yeah.
It is money that they have to pay before they earn a penny.
Well,
Yeah, it's a huge... But hospitality and retail are disproportionately hit by business rates just because of the nature of the system. They need big spaces. It's unbelievable challenge for retailers.
But
hopefully today we're going to hear the headline. That's about... I mean, one of the big things is the fact that the valuations on which business rates are paid are so historic, they're so out of line that people are paying more in rates in so many premises than they are in rent.
And of course, the trade-off with this is the fact that the big online retailers are paying very little, if anything. Is anything going to be done about that?
We're about to find out today, hopefully.
We are. Let's talk about the NHS quickly. £6 billion to be allocated to NHS England to deal with a backlog of patients. I mean, we're always talking about this at the moment, this backlog and what needs to be done, and it's going to take years to get anywhere near where we need to be after the pandemic. But will this sort of solve the backlog, Matt?
The thing is, so I did a shift in a hospital recently. We went onto the theatres, and on the morning I sat down with the surgeons, looking at what they were going to do that day, and they were making the decision.
When you did a shift at a hospital, you weren't there with a scalpel already, because I tell you what, if I was wheeled in,
I
saw an MP looking over me, I would
somebody
be
consented,
running quicker than...
Somebody consented, and I was allowed to go into the theatre and see someone have the gallstones removed. How fascinating was that?
Oh, there's a surgeon.
Yeah,
That's a proper
have you ever seen a gallstone? It's very exciting. It was like a hard piece of sweet. It was bizarre. But during that morning, I got them to see them dishing out the jobs. You know, this is the size of the project this morning. How many of them can we get through? Do we make the decision between somebody's granny's new hip or the kid who had an accident with a car at football at the weekend? That's real. We shut down elective surgery during the pandemic. Those waiting lists are huge. That's why we've seen that increase in NICs. That's why we've seen that increase in spending. Even though the NHS is already getting the biggest cash boost in its history, we're going further. We're pumping more money in to get that backlog down.
Now, look, it's great that you're in talking about it. You're a great sport. But there are some stories that really do wind people up. And we're talking about millions, billions of pounds in a way that a few years ago we never did. The money seems to be passing through our fingers like water. And then you've got this new report saying the test and trace costs £37 billion, and a parliamentary committee has discovered that that was an eye-watering waste of cash. People get really angry about this, and they get really angry because no one is ever held to account.
There are two parts to this. The first part, I think it's entirely right that there is a committee scrutinising it and holding the government to account, asking these questions and, you know, making the point.
Quite rightly.
But actually, in real terms, we talk about this fantastic vaccination rollout. That was a punt. You know, we invested up front, took the chance on these vaccines because it was the only way to do it, and actually it's paid off. That's why we're ahead of the game. That's why we're up front in the vaccine rollout, because we took the challenges.
Not anymore, but yes.
Well, we got there because we spent that cash. The reason we're rolling out some of our vaccines to the rest of the world is because we did that and because we put ourselves in that position. It could have gone awfully wrong. Should we have held on to the money and not done anything that was a bit, pushy to get hold of those vaccines? Of course we were doing exactly the right thing. It could have been egg on our face, but it wasn't, thankfully, and that's why we're in the position we are today. That's why we're not all wearing masks when we walk down the street. That's why the pub's open, and that's why the economy is getting back on its feet.
Hang on. A lot of people are saying we need to. There is the Plan B. What's your view on that? Should we be...
You know what? The data obviously doesn't suggest it at the minute, or the government would be doing it. I think in my part of the world, when I speak to people, they are relieved to be back at work, to be doing what they want to do, to get rid of the damn masks. If it becomes necessary, then that's where we'll end up. But actually, this vaccine rollout is fantastic. We're seeing hospitalisation. It's not happening. It's not happening.
Do you want to be Prime Minister one day?
No, it's a big job. It's a big job.
Why?
Because,
it's a big job, but why wouldn't you?
This job is pretty big. That job must be unbelievably big. We'll leave that to some of
I just want to have this on record so that in 20 years we'll say...
Remind you of that, Matt.
Well, I won't be around in 20 years, but you will be, I suspect. Matt, it's really good to see you. And
Matt,
thank you very much.
You are great. We love having you in. Thank you very much indeed.
We ask people in to talk about one thing and then we bombard them with all the other stuff.
But you're a great sport.
Well done, you.